Chapter 6. Al-Jahiz narrates, an ugly man married a beautiful Bedouin woman, and she fell in love with him. He was asked about that and he said, the length of the pillow and the length of the black. Mohsen mentioned that word while he was sitting looking at the columns of the Odeon from his place with coffee one morning, and he shook in his chair and his eyes sparkled with joy. He has found a path to follow like him. He knows himself. It is like a closed box, not inlaid with gold or silver, not decorated with colors or drawings, and its appearance does not dazzle or deceive. But the length of the vicinity may force the person who comes across it to look at it and find out what is in it, and if he does, there is no doubt that he will find in his heart some of those pearls that he is searching for. People are talking about her, but how can he get close to her continuously, when he is not able to go to her now, to say hello to her, and how can he find the closeness of a pillow and the length of blackness with this one? And he couldn't win 5 minutes of time? And remember, at that time, Saloma Street in Cairo, where he had lived for years next to Sanaya. Indeed, if the hand of fate had not placed his residence next to hers, that girl would not have had a place in his life one day. Yes, nothing today can pull him out of this despair other than the proximity of residence and neighborhood, the long black of the night and the white of the day. But he doesn't know where you live. And how do you live? Alone? This is the golden dream. No, that's impossible. Fate is too cruel to grant him this dream. She undoubtedly lives with her family. However, what does this mean? He is content with little. It is enough for him to just feel that she is his neighbor all the time. It remains for him to know her place of residence, and this is easy. All he has to do is follow her lead, as she exits the theater in the evening. Here Mohsen jumped up as if the crisis had resolved. From today on, he will not use coffee as an airport for his fantasies soaring in vain over this stage. But he will be active and walk on the path of hope, guided by his command. He rubbed his hands to warm them from the cold, and wiped his coat and hat from the rain drizzle that had fallen on them, and he walked in the streets, killing the day waiting for the evening, browsing, sometimes the faces of bookstores, and sometimes advertisements, for musical theaters on the walls, and symphonic music, concerts. Until today, he did not know Beethoven's music completely. The few symphony concerts that he attended had not yet established the grounds for familiarity between him and that big heart. And the boy did not despair. He knows that the gods do not reveal their secret to the first comer, and that kings and great men do not appear to everyone who knocks on their doors. Rather, long patience is required to sit at the doorsteps of temples and palace doors, and beg with a sincere desire to arrive. Patience in art and in love is the key to the path. Mohsen saw the program of a concert in which Beethoven's Fifth Symphony would be played, starting in the afternoon and ending in the early evening. I didn't hesitate and decided to go. Noon came and he had lunch in a small restaurant, then he hurried to the Châtelet Theatre. To listen to that man whom generations of people have listened to. There, the boy found the theatre crowded with people, so he took a humble seat at the top of the place and watched, from a height, the huge sea of women and men in the hall and the balconies. And it was not long before the musician Gabriel Bernier, the band's leader, appeared. With his little stick and his short white beard. The noise suddenly fell silent, hands rose in applause, and then a sacred stillness descended upon the place, like the stillness of a temple. Mohsen felt the reverence he felt in church that day, and the professor's hand moved with the stick, and Beethoven was speaking in his heavenly language, strong at first in that sublime, allegro, and sweet after that, as if they were the pure voices of angels in that quiet, andante. Then overflowing with inner pleasure, with that bright secrezzo, until you end it with that explosive joy, one of the highlights of the melodies of the last presto. Yes, it is nothing but the revelation of heaven speaking, with various great feelings that raised humanity to this level. Mohsen began to realize and feel the truth of that word that he read in Nietzsche, all the sublime emotions of humanity in the Fifth Symphony. Mohsen left the theater lost heart like the rest of the people. His soul is still wandering in that upper atmosphere. And he went out to the road, and the cold air greeted him, hitting his face, and immediately his soul returned to him, and he looked around and saw the darkness telling him that the date was approaching, so he quickly walked to the Odeon, and stood at its door, hidden behind the column, waiting for the beautiful woman to emerge. 10 o'clock struck, the box office closed, and the temptress came out walking, like the deer described by Ishaq al-Marsali, saying, Shoden did not see Iraq in it. With the situation of Iraq, the meaning of the Hijaz. Mohsen recognized this young man from his pointed walk, before the darkness saw his face. His heart trembled and he did not move, and his companion moved away, and his soul whispered to him, "Go, for fear of disappearing from your sight." So he hurried after her as if he was afraid, until she reached the subway stairs, and she went down to the station after showing the door attendant a ticket from the notebook she had. As soon as Mohsen arrived, he went to the ticket office, bought a ticket, paid a piece of silver, and got the rest of it back. Until the train came and passed with the girl, while he looked with his mouth open and disappointed. He came to his senses after a short while, and said to himself, "I did not count the ticket book she had with her. Of course someone like her should have this notebook, since she is the one who crosses the road, coming twice a day. Decent. There is no use in sadness and regret. Tomorrow I will do it again after I prepare my equipment." Tomorrow came, so he got a book of tickets for the second class, waited for her, then followed her to the station, and the metro train came, so he rushed to a carriage in the second class, and he looked behind him and saw that she was getting into a carriage in the first class, and the train proceeded and there was no communication between the cars. There are many stations, and it is not known which one the girl landed in. It also lost its effect on him this time, so he became angry and revolted against himself, shouting, "This is disappointment and stupidity itself. Can't I follow a human being 10 meters away?" Then he calmed down, smiled, and said like a dreamer, "I did not think that the secret police profession was this difficult." However, these disappointing experiences benefited the boy on the third day. He took precautions in every aspect, and did not ignore the girl even a blink of an eye. He got into one car with her and watched her closely without appearing to her until the metro reached the Port Delilah station. So she got down, so he quickly went down after her. She walked a long path, with linden and chestnut trees growing on both sides. He followed her, hiding from one moment to the next, behind the trunks of trees, until she reached a hotel called the Acacia Flower Hotel, and she entered. Mohsen did nothing after that, except that he turned back and did not walk on the ground, but rather flew, dancing at heart. He knew her house. The next morning, Mohsen got up early, opened his bags, stuffed his clothes and books into them, and hurriedly bid farewell to the astonished old man, and he gave her a quick message, so that she could hand it over to Andre and his wife, and put his luggage in a taxi, while saying to the old woman, "Kiss little Jano for me. Tomorrow, Andre will tell you the secret of all this. Goodbye." He turned to the car driver and whispered, "To Port Delilah's, the Acacia Flower Hotel." The car had hardly disappeared before the old woman came to her senses and said with a sigh, "This is the one we thought was sane." The car was racing against the wind, and Mohsen's heart was racing against the car as if he had defeated Iwan Khosrow. What is all this joy? Is it because he saw her entering a hotel? And if it appears after all of this that she does not live in this hostel, and that she went as a visitor, should he not have waited and made sure of the matter before this crazy run with his luggage? Here his face turned a little yellow, and he feared that he had also lost track of her this time. However, he had no choice but to continue walking and stay at this hotel. It was too late to return, so the car stopped at the hotel door, unloaded the luggage, and the manager led him to room number 48 on the 5th floor. All Mohsen wanted at that time was to know whether his girlfriend really lived here. On which floor and which room? But how can he ask the question if he does not know her name? The boy entered his room and found it small, clean, with a window overlooking an open space. This neighborhood is a far end of Paris, one of its doors. He also found a small kitchen attached to the room, prepared with the latest food preparation equipment, including a stove and a small oven, lit by gas that comes from pipes, tools for grilling meat, cabinets to place utensils, and a water basin. This hotel is intended to accommodate poor families. Each room and its annex are prepared. It's like an independent residence. Mohsen stayed in his room that day, busy taking out his luggage and books, and organizing his affairs in that room, and he said happily, "I have a kitchen. I will undoubtedly need it in days of hardship and bankruptcy. A person eating in a restaurant spends 3 days on this simple kitchen." Mohsen slept heavily the first night in that new headquarters. Yesterday he read a lot and meditated a lot, and as he does that, he does not always wake up before 9, but this morning he got up before 6 and jumped out of bed to a beautiful voice, singing like a beautiful bird this famous song in the novel, Carmen. Love is a bohemian child. He never knows a law. So he hurried to the window and looked for the sound. So his girl was wearing a white silk women's robe de chamber, arranging violet flowers in pots on the windowsill under his window. She? Here? She lives in a room below his room. Mohsen's heart jumped and beat. He thought she heard it, but she continued singing it. If you don't love me, I love you. And if I love you, woe to you.